Hello everybody. Christmas time is upon us, and today I have an unfortunate Christmas theory to share with you. I'm going to warn you that if you're tender about the whole idea of Santa Claus either one way or the other, and you don't handle jokes about the holidays very well, this is definitely not the video for you. So I'm going to warm myself by the fire and give you a second to think about whether or not you want to proceed. Okay, you're still here. That means you're the kind of person who can take a joke. Now understand that there is nobody sponsoring this video whatsoever. I am not advocating for any kind of criminal activity. I just want to share an unfortunate Christmas theory that I came up with a few years ago. In fact, this entire video is based on three things. One is a Facebook post that I put up in 2012, which gives a brief summary of everything I'm going to say. The other one is, there's actually two Christmas songs that this is based on. The first is Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer by Randy Brooks, and released in 1979. The other is I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus by Jimmy Boyd from 1952. You can find links to both of those in the description below. So we start with some presuppositions. What is this entire unfortunate theory based on? Well, the first one is that Santa Claus is real. And that's a hot button issue with people this time of year. Is Santa real? Is Santa not real? Should people be telling their kids that Santa Claus is real? Do our religious beliefs allow for Santa Claus to be real? Now, I gotta tell you, in order for this entire unfortunate theory to work, Santa actually has to be real. One of the big questions about Santa Claus is, how does he get all over the world in one night? Well, he doesn't have to do a whole lot of the world, because a lot of the world doesn't believe he's real. And if you don't believe in him, well, he's not bringing you anything. So that probably saves him an awful lot of time. The second presupposition is that Santa Claus is at least heterosexual. Now, I know we all have this idea that Santa Claus believes in traditional marriage, and I don't know if he has anything going on the side. But for the sake of this theory, Santa Claus is a heterosexual guy, and we know this because there is a Mrs. Claus. He married a lady. This involves your grandmother, your mom, and if you're a lady, potentially you someday as well. Okay? The other presupposition is that the two songs that I referenced, Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer, the original version of that, as well as I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, are actually true stories. Now again, the companies, the families, the singers, the licensees, whatever, have nothing to do with what I'm going to say. This came completely out of my mind. They're not sponsoring this or responsible for this in any way whatsoever. But the idea here is that those two tales are true. Not only are they true, but they're also relatable events, meaning that it's possible that the people who wrote them and performed them aren't the only people who went through these experiences. Maybe you've caught your mom kissing Santa Claus as well as they did. And you know what? You're probably not alone in that. There's probably a lot of kids who caught their mothers kissing Santa Claus. And there may be a lot of people whose grandmothers got, interestingly enough, run over by reindeers. This could have happened to any number of people. Say, well, that is so ridiculous. How could it be true? Well, I would propose that it's so ridiculous that it was something that was exclaimed in song, just waiting for someone to come along and believe it, which is what I've done for the sake of this theory that I've come up with to share with you today, which you can all handle because you stayed through the intermission. So let's get to the theory itself. It starts with you catching your mother kissing Santa Claus, and as you can see by the illustrations, for the sake of today's theory, you're a little girl for some reason. So anyway, you caught your mother kissing Santa Claus. Now this does two things for you. First of all, it shatters your image of Santa. You always thought Santa was a wonderful guy, but if he's kissing your mom, he can't be that great a guy. And that's not because your mom's a bad person, but that's because Santa Claus is married. You realize instantly that Santa Claus is actually awful. And we know he's awful. We think that he's a happy guy just sitting up there in the North Pole, you know, toiling away, using his magic, you know, supervising a bunch of elves, making toys for all the happy kids, when really, he's actually a really judgmental person. Santa Claus is the one who gets to divide us into either, or the kids, either into the nice list or the naughty list. He decides whether or not you are a good person or a bad person and worthy of his attention. So how does he decide this? What moral code does he use? What if he wakes up one day, has a bad day, and just decides that he doesn't like you for some reason, so you get nothing? One reason Santa Claus might be miserable, on top of all the work he has to do, if you've ever worked in a factory before, you know that your supervisor isn't always the nicest person, be it a guy or a girl. Especially in Santa Claus's scenario, I mean, the guy is making gifts for people who live all over the world. He's in charge of manufacturing, he's in charge of delivery, and for some reason, all the orders, all the letters that the kids write to Santa tend to come in within the last couple of months. The guy has a whole year to work on these things, and yet the orders don't get submitted till right before they're due. So if you're Santa, you'd probably be miserable too. Now, I realize that I might get nothing but coal for saying these things about Santa, and if I do, I'll just put him in the barbecue. That's okay with me. So it totally shatters your image of Santa Claus. Santa Claus being with your mom. The other thing it does, though, is it confirms Santa Claus's existence. You now know, because you have seen him, that Santa Claus is absolutely 100% real, and this theory requires that he's real. But you know it because you saw him in action. The second part of this theory is that your grandmother got ran over by a reindeer. Now, this likely occurred close to when you witnessed Santa Claus getting with your mom, and you got to consider something here. Not only did these two events happen likely close together, that's not a guarantee, but consider your grandfather's reaction. Your grandpa, according to the song, doesn't seem too upset about it. He almost seems cool with it, but we won't go that far. All it really does is it puts your grandmother in an unfortunate situation, but it also amplifies your and your grandfather's belief in the fact that Santa Claus is real. So now not only did your grandmother, facing this incident, amplify your belief in Santa Claus, so did when you caught your mother kissing Santa Claus, add to your belief that he is in fact real. I mean, what's the thinking? He must be real because he got with my mom and then my grandmother suddenly got knocked off. Therefore, Santa Claus is real, right? Wait, why did that happen? I mean, Santa Claus is a good guy, right? Why are reindeers running over our grandmothers, and why are our mothers making out with Santa in the middle of the night when we're told we're supposed to be asleep? Remember, Santa doesn't come, kids, unless you are sleeping. It's the only time he comes. But he doesn't seem to mind if your mom's awake. Well, we've already discussed the fact that Santa's extremely judgmental, and maybe that's okay because he's under a lot of stress. But why do we think Santa's a good guy? Well, one, he hands out a lot of free gifts. Two, he's just a happy, jolly character, which begs the question, does gift giving and being jolly make you a good person? Well, no, of course not. It just means that you're happy and you like to give people stuff. That doesn't mean you're a good person. I'm sure you know plenty of great people who are happy all the time or like to give presents. That's just how they show affection. That doesn't mean they don't have character flaws or that there's something really bad about them. But you say, well, hold on, I see where you're going, but Santa Claus is married. This brings up the issue of Mrs. Claus. Like with Santa Claus, many of us assume that Mrs. Claus is a consistent individual, always the same lady, and she's happy, she's content, and she's a faithful wife. When really, she could be miserable because of her unfaithful husband. In fact, there could be any number of ex-Mrs. Clauses out there. Consider, Santa Claus is clearly skilled as a pickup artist. He was able to dazzle your mom and who knows how many other moms out there. Maybe my mom, maybe Elizabeth's mom, any number of moms. And maybe they're not even moms. Maybe they're just young ladies that he bedazzled them because he's a pickup artist. He's obviously very good at this, if these two things are true. So any given Mrs. Claus gets with Santa because she thinks he's magical. Just like our moms did. She thinks he's magical just to find out that he's an unfaithful womanizer. Now, consider Santa Claus's predicament. Okay? Clearly, he likes ladies, and he can't settle on any one of them. Plus, he's very good at getting whatever lady he seems to want. He has a growing number of disgruntled exes. So what's a guy to do? If Santa actually is awful, the way we've discussed he might be, what you do is you do the same thing you'd do if you're trying to deviously collect insurance money. You have to get rid of them. And this is where the general lack of belief in Santa and the reindeer become really important. When Santa moves on from a lady, as he often might, and clearly has the ability to do, he engineers an accident just like he did with Grandma. So what he does is he sends his reindeer of choice in to do his dirty work. And so here we have a cycle. He cheats, he engineers an accident. He cheats again, he engineers an accident. And then he cheats yet again, and yet there's another accident, and on it goes. Now, it's the perfect scheme, right? Because who would suspect him? If you believe in Santa, you think he's a good guy, although there's very good reasons to think that he is not. If you don't believe in Santa, I mean, you don't think he's real. And if he's not real, he's incapable of committing a crime. I mean, who would go looking for missing people in the North Pole? Nobody goes there. And even if you did find missing people in the North Pole, who would blame Santa Claus? He's not real. And again, if you did believe in him, he's too good a guy. He'd never do something like that. Now, if you're the one who's kissing him under the mistletoe, if you're the mom in this story, you think you're special. You're bedazzled by Santa Claus. You think you're special. He would never do that to you. And if you're the victim, if you're the grandma in this story, then it's already too late. And the result is that everybody who knew about it, so Grandpa and your child, if you were caught, all this does is it makes them believe in Santa Claus that much more. So what do we get in the end? If all of this turns out to be the case, then Santa gets free range of his favorite ladies all across the earth, and people just continue to trust Santa Claus based on their preconceived ideas that he is really a great guy, and we go on trying to please him by behaving for the last few weeks before Christmas time and writing him letters, and we even leave the guy cookies and milk and maybe even a carrot for the reindeer, which could be the same reindeer who's part of this devious plot. You know, I really hope that none of this is true. But if it is, well, that's just unfortunate. So I hope you enjoyed the unfortunate Christmas theory that I shared with you in this video. Remember, don't take any of it seriously. This is all a big joke. Don't let this video color your idea of Santa Claus. But if you need something to talk about at your Christmas parties or whatever, it's a good idea. And if you like the illustrations that you saw to help me kind of tell this story, Alethea here is the artist who drew them. She's an up-and-comer. She's got a lot of skill. So do let us know that you like them in the comments below. That'll mean a lot to her and mean a lot to me as well. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and don't worry, we have a much more Christmas-friendly video coming up next week. Alright, so we will see you then. If Santa really is awful, what? Why can't we get this out? Alright, I'll have to fix the camera.